welcome to another episode of Total Football Talk. Sorry about the light, I'll turn that off in a minute. I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
I'm 3-0, and Eric is 2-1. So things are looking pretty good. A little fun fact: last week I went 11-4, 12-4. I went 12-4 last week in my picks, my personal picks with my football pool. That's now gone bye-bye because the guy that did that took a job somewhere else. So anyway. Pretty good week for me last week. Finally got past 9-7, which was my record the first 2 weeks. Eric, let's go ahead and start with Baltimore, Kansas City. Go.
Well, Baltimore, Kansas City, we were expecting a lot of fireworks in this show, especially from the quarterbacks, and really only one quarterback put on the show because on the other side it was the Mark Ingram show. But kudos to Baltimore for keeping it close, and I say that because man, they went for 2 points at for 2 times of the game, not twice, 3 times actually, and they failed all 3 times. So I wasn't really too keen on them going for that. When hey, you got a field goal kicker or place kicker who can hit those extra points, no problem. His name is Justin Tucker. Maybe you want to utilize him and not try to go for a fancy style points. But Mark Ingram kept the Ravens in the game. It looked really ugly early because before the game, man, it was pouring cats and dogs, and it was going to be one of those, was going to be a low-scoring ground game type of thing. But then the rain stopped probably half an hour to 45 minutes before the game started, and that's when Patrick Mahomes took over. He threw for 374 yards. He found his rookie wide receiver, Mecole Hardman, for 97 of those yards, who had a good game. The ground game was okay. LaShawn McCoy did his part, but it was really the Patrick Mahomes show in Kansas City. And like I said, Baltimore kept it close. And what they were able to do was utilize the ground game, which shows me that if you have a strong running back, and we've seen Mark Ingram run in New Orleans, and he had quite a bit of success there, even when he shared time with Alvin Kamara. But now he's his own show in Baltimore. But he was able to get over 100 yards, 103 to be exact, 3 touchdowns. Again, kept Baltimore in the game. Now, Baltimore would have only been down by 3, driving with the last possession of the game to try to get in position for a field goal. They couldn't do it because, hey, they went for 2 points 3 times and could not get those points. So take the points when you can get them, and go for 2 when it's going to put you up 7, 8, or 9 in a late score game, and put the pressure on the opposing team, not put the pressure on yourself, because that's when mistakes get made. But I didn't really expect Baltimore to go into Kansas City and win. Now, I think to me it was a great test. They've gone to Kansas City twice in the last 2 seasons. One last year and close to the end of last year after Lamar Jackson was already starting. He ran a lot more then. He didn't run a lot this time, but he did have a rushing touchdown. But Kansas City, they stepped up when they needed to and give the Chiefs the win in that game. And it was a lot closer than I anticipated. I know Anthony called a blowout. I think 38-10.
37.
I thought it was going to be a little bit closer. 37-10, whatever. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer, and Mark Ingram did keep it close. But Baltimore, they needed one more possession, and they couldn't get it.
So my take on this game, I'm going to start threefold. So first of all, this is just more fuel for the fire of my belief system that I cannot put Bill Belichick in a category of greatest coach of all time. I just can't. He's one of the best coaches that's ever lived, and he certainly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Unquestionable. But you're not going to throw this mess at me that he's the greatest of all time. Look at all of his success that he's had with New England. When you've got an experienced football coach who's playing Madden football with real players on a field, not punting, going for it on 4th and 3 from your own 30-yard line, going for it on 4th and 2 from your own 27-yard line, going for 2-point conversions on every play, when you've got one of the best kicking games in professional football, certainly in the AFC, and that's going to be your approach to the game. And then, not to mention, you say before the game, we got to play Kansas City-style football today. I've never heard a football coach in my life saying we have to play someone else's game. You always play your game.
You've already lost then.
Right. You make them play your game. The Ravens went in going, we're going to play chief football. Well, then you're going to lose because you don't play chief football. So when I see a game like that one, with all of the horrible coaching decisions that was made from the moment the gun sounded to start the game till the moment the gun ended to end the game, what do I always tell you guys? Take the friggin' points. You cannot get them back. If they kick extra points, they're tying the game. They're going down the field to tie it with one of the best kickers in the AFC and force overtime rather than having to get a touchdown. Joe Gibbs said, I don't care if it's 4th and inches at the 1 yard line, unless you just know your gut's telling you to go for it. Joe Gibbs only went in 83 when they had the #1 offense in football, okay, and set records. They only went for 4th and goal twice that whole season. That whole season, they only went for it on 4th and goal with 1 yard or less in the first half. Twice. That's it. Once against Dallas, they lost by 1. Once against Green Bay, they lost by 1. And that was the most prolific offense in football. Now, they did in the postseason against the Rams, and they got it, I think, twice against the Rams. So their season average was 50%, where they went for it in the first half instead of foregoing a field goal. But in the regular season, it cost them the game. It cost them 2 games. You take the points. That's why Joe Gibbs always said, you take the points in the first half because you never get them back. And when you've got guaranteed points in a close game, I don't even know, like the math didn't even make sense for the last 2-point conversion. Like it didn't even make sense. Like you're going for 2 here when an extra point makes it a 1-score game. Like, what are you doing? Yeah, okay, you'd be down by 2 instead of 4. Fine, I get that. You're playing for the win, but you've not gotten a single 2-point yet today. And then
they were down by 5, Anthony. They were down by 5 in the last score. They went for 2 to get to 3. Then they had this weird onside kick where it went straight up in the air, but a little bit too far. They called a fair catch. So,
right,
like they went for it. They had to go for it just to bring it into field goal range.
Right, but the other two,
but
the 1 2-point conversion they did at the start of the game, which made it 6-0 instead of 7-0, and they did again later on when going and I remember the announcers going, this doesn't make sense. If they get the 2-point conversion, it's still a 2-score game. Like, what's the reason behind this? It's not like if you get it, you cut it to a 1-score game. It was still going to make it a 2-point game or a 2-score game. So you're right. The end of the game, that one was the one but by then it was too late, right? And had he gone for the extra point the other previous times, he'd have been in position where an extra point makes it a 1-score game. And the onside kick was horrendous. Look, the only thing I can take away from this game is the horrific coaching. And unfortunately, it's not all on Jim Harbaugh. The Chiefs should have blown this team out. But the play calling by Andy Reid was equally horrendous. I mean, at what point are you going to go, we're having success running the ball? Why don't we throw some underneath stuff? Why don't we go to the hot receiver? Why don't we go to the hot running back? Like, Mahomes carried them to victory because their coaching staff couldn't figure out how to coach. Their defense couldn't figure out that the only way they're going to get yardage on us is running the ball. So they kept playing Jackson like he was frickin' Tom Brady in his prime. Like, it was such a horrible game to watch. Like, I had to suffer and watch every play because my buddy's a Ravens fan. And I was just like, I would rather pee lightning than watch any more of this game. So the score may have been close, but honestly, I would rather chew shards of broken glass and pee it out of my pee hole than watch another down of that game. It was that bad. I was in pain watching. But I had to. But at the end of the day, this is why Bill Belichick is going to continue to dominate in the AFC. Because you have what I'm told are professional coaches, but they look like teenage boys playing Madden in adult bodies trying to be coaches. out there making horrendous decision after horrendous decision. And why do you even practice that kick? Do you really think, first of all, to his credit, maybe he's right, but one of the first things you teach in camp is if it's ever a high kick on a field, on a kickoff, fair catch it. Like, that's the worst onside kick idea ever. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Maybe they were going for the surprise element. Whatever, it failed. The onside kick is going by the wayside because you can't kick it the way you're supposed to kick it, because you can't do it the way you're supposed to do it because of player safety, which is a joke. I hated that game. I couldn't stand watching it. As a coach, I was just like, that's a bad call. That's a bad call. Why would you call that on defense? That's a bad call. That's a bad call. That's a horrible call on defense. Okay, Melvin Ingram's getting the ball. Ingram's getting the ball. Ingram's getting the ball. Why didn't you stop Ingram? You knew he was getting the ball, and he just ran for 37 yards. Didn't help that I was playing against him in fantasy. But regardless, like, stop Ingram. That's your only weapon. Nope. They're going to go ahead and they're going to cover downtown Brown and Jackson like he's Tom Brady. And does anybody believe me yet about Jackson? Or are we still going to have to wait? Because if Jared Goff played the way Jackson played yesterday, they'd be tearing him apart. They'd be tearing him to shreds. But, I guess, they like Jackson, so they're going to say how great he is, even though he's garbage. And I can't wait. Again, this is the first opponent Baltimore played that was an actual NFL team. I don't even think the Miami Dolphins play pro football anymore. I'm pretty sure it's a college team. So, we'll see. I mean, who do the Ravens have next? The Browns? That's actually one of the games I'm going to cover. So, we'll see. I don't think the Browns are particularly lethal. That division's a joke. Your take. Or are we done with this game?
We're done with the game.
Okay. So, let's go to the one that I picked, which was Minnesota, Oakland.
That barn burner, that great game.
That was a horrible game, too. No kidding. I don't know. Like,
I told you.
But no, but.
How about I just say this? I told you, and we'll move on.
Okay, so there's your point. My point is, are we convinced yet that the Minnesota Vikings are the 85 Lions? They're going to win every game at home, and they're going to win by double digits, and they're going to beat, no matter the opponent, undefeated Patriots, winless Buccaneers, they're going to win at home. Then they're going to go on the road to winless friggin' Miami and lose by 21. Like, it's bizarre. But I just get that feeling, the Dome is going to give them the energy. If this team's able to win any road games this year, Minnesota may make the playoffs. And I'll tell you something. I don't want Minnesota with a home field advantage because this team is going to be really tough to beat at home. I don't believe they'll have home field advantage because I don't think they know how to play on the road. But this NFL game was I told you guys it was either going to be a blowout for Minnesota or the Raiders are going to win. But we still don't know what we have in these two teams. We think the Raiders are bad, but are the Vikings just that good at home? It's such a weird dynamic that I look at this game and I go, well, this really didn't answer any questions. And it really is a perfect, like if I could take this game and say, define the 2019 NFL season, that's the game. 2 1-1 teams playing each other, supposedly evenly matched, and Kirk Cousins looks like Joe friggin' Montana and Terry Bradshaw and Roger Staubach combined. And Carr looks like his brother. Like, I don't know what to do. It's just a weird game. So, yeah, I mean, I could kind of say I told you so. I don't know if I picked Minnesota or Oakland in that game. I think I picked Oakland. But just know I'm picking Minnesota every time they're home from here on out. Because I don't think that team can be beat at home. I don't care who the opponent is. Just saying.
Okay, so here's what I took out of that game. The Oakland Raiders have some offensive firepower. It's their defense that is very poor, okay? Like, Darren Waller, stud tight end. People don't know about him, but, man, they've been talking about him for at least over a year now. Now he's getting his chance. Now he's shining, okay? It didn't help that, the Raiders were featured on Hard Knocks this year, and they were actually talking about Waller quite a bit, which was good because he got his pub and he's showing that he can play. He started playing football like 5 years ago, and like dude's hands are like enormous. He led the game in receiving 134 yards, and you know what? That's what the Raiders had to do because they were down quite a bit.
Yeah.
what also goes to show me is that the Raiders, A, don't have a defense, and B, Dalvin Cook is having one heck of a year.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of running backs who are going to be able to run through the Oakland Raider defense, and Dalvin Cook is one of them. Now, he's got a tougher test next week. But the Raiders, I mean, granted, you know, after that big Week 1 win against Denver at home, you know, they've just looked mediocre. Like they're just waiting for that big draft pick to come in and save the franchise or something while they move to Vegas. I don't know what to tell you, but Raiders are in trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't like what I'm seeing out of Oakland. I raised my ears up a little bit after Week 1 or during Week 1 when they played Denver. But then it just goes to show how bad Denver might really be, too. And the Raiders just need to get back on track fast if they want to have any chance at having any type of decent season. They're just going downhill pretty quick right now.
That's the truth. All right. Bears, Redskins. The Bears finally found the end zone, so congratulations on that.
Well, it was bound to happen sooner or later. I mean,
what was the final? 31-25?
31-15.
Oh, 31-15. That's right.
Yeah. A lot of positives coming out of this. One positive is that the Bears played a defense that was absolutely horrendous. So I don't know how much stock you could put on there, but I wanna say this first. So whoever's calling out my Bears that they stink, I'm coming for you. I've seen a couple of posts on the YouTube page. Oh, Bears stink. Yeah. We'll see, buddy. You know who you are.
Look, I know.
Okay.
Look.
All right. Now that that's done, listen, here's the thing. I love the fact that Trubisky threw 3 touchdown passes. He had one bad pass the whole game. I don't know what the heck he was thinking. I really think it was a design play call where Matt Nagy said, all right, Mitch, throw a pitch here. I don't care if it's in the end zone. And that's the only way that he throws that bad of a pass is if it was choreographed and it was called that way. But, you know, the Bears offense really needs a kick in the butt. And, you know, it helped that they played the Redskins, who were pretty diminished on the field on the defensive side of the ball.
What else is new?
I think they really needed to run more than they did in the game. I mean, David Montgomery just needs the ball more. That's all it comes down to. I mean, he led the team the game with 67 yards rushing. But what really didn't sit well with me was the way the Bears played very soft pass coverage. And Case Keenum, basically, when he wasn't throwing to the Bears and he was throwing to his own team, specifically Terry McLaurin, you know, he threw for over 300 yards, 332 to be exact. And I didn't like that. That didn't sit well with me. They played soft coming out of the half. They had a quick 3-and-out when they had the ball first. And Washington decided it was like, hey, okay, well, we're just going to pick apart your defense because you're playing zone, and we're just going to throw it to our guys all day, and we're going to score a couple touchdowns, and that's it. And I don't know, it doesn't bode well when I see Adam Thielen coming to town next. And because I know he can exploit more of that zone defense.
Yeah, but you're home.
I'm hoping the Bears tighten up their pass coverage because they really have 2 really good corners in Kyle Fuller and Prince Amukamara. And I know that Thielen and Diggs are a lot better than McLaurin and Trey Quinn and whoever else the Redskins are trotting out there.
You know, it's fitting that the Redskins' colors are from the medicine wheel with the Native American tribes, because that team is always needing the medicine wheel. I've never seen a team go through more injuries. I give up on Snyder. If he doesn't fire Gruden at the end of this year, I quit. I don't know what else to do. And I don't understand what Gruden has over this owner. Maybe he has some pictures or something. I don't know. Maybe he has a videotape of him at Epstein's house. I don't know, but something's weird because this man should have been fired 2 years ago, let alone still coaching with the Redskins. That team is an injury-prone hot mess. And the Bears did exactly what they were supposed to do. They blew out an opponent that they were supposed to blow out. As far as Trubisky goes, Eric, just get used to Trubisky being called a bust and being a garbage quarterback because he's never going to put up fantasy numbers. And if you notice, any quarterback that doesn't have good fantasy numbers, regardless of their performance on the field, regardless of how they play in big moments, they are going to be viewed as garbage. And regardless of how bad those quarterbacks are that put up big fantasy numbers, I won't mention names, but people like Stafford and Phillip Rivers, and then in the big moments, they absolutely fold like a cheap suit or a prostitute on prom night. They just don't care. They're going to call Phillip Rivers great. They're going to call Stafford great because they're making money in fantasy football. That's what it boils down to. Phillip Rivers is an okay quarterback. He's a good regular season guy. But that's it. And yes, I would take Jared Goff every single time over Phillip Rivers. Sorry, MM Forever. I know you're going to have a problem with that statement. But I've seen enough of Phillip Rivers' career, and I've seen enough of Jared Goff's career, and I know what Jared Goff does in big moments when he's outmanned. Jared Goff went into the championship game against a superior opponent on the road without his best running back who had a knee injury. Well, that's right, we won. Oh, but you got a call. You can call it what you want. But we were still in position to have that call benefit us. When you were in New England, you weren't. Oh, he got injured in New England. Okay, well, there's another point I'd like to make. Jared Goff's getting rocked and 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 rocked, but he's still playing. So, I mean, but again, it's fantasy numbers, right? Phillip Rivers, big fantasy numbers. Jared Goff, not. Jared Goff, garbage. Rivers is a Hall of Famer. Get used to it with Trubisky. It's going to be the same thing on your neck of the woods, bro. I'm just calling it like I see it.
No, and that's fine. I'd rather my team win, look ugly winning, and don't care about fantasy numbers or whatever, and let my team, keep winning and whatnot, and do it that way than losing pretty and having 700 touchdowns thrown in the game and still losing by 1 point.
Right.
So,
right. I mean,
but I also want to point out that was the first Monday night game between the two storied franchises
ever.
Wow,
that's surprising. They have such a history against one another.
Because I was getting ready to post this, but Dustin Hopkins kicked a field goal right before halftime. But it was funny because all I was thinking was, well, the last time the Bears played in Washington, where they held a 28-0 lead at halftime, they won 77-0.
73. Don't be ridiculous.
73-0. Whatever.
On to the Rams. So I feel like I'm living in an alternate universe. Eric, you were at the game, so you tell me, because we haven't talked much about this game. You tell me if you agree with this assessment. I'm going to say this, then I'm going to let you talk because you were at the game, and I know the fans want to hear about that and that experience. And then I'll say my piece to wrap this up. The Rams do not beat the Cleveland Browns without Jared Goff at quarterback. Do you agree with that assessment or not?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Take it away from there.
All right. Well, okay. So first of all, I want to say that, you guys know me first and foremost as a baseball fan. Football is definitely, second for me. However, doing this show has really brought how much football can be learned. And when I went to Cleveland, Cleveland is a football town, first and foremost. Doesn't matter how good or bad the Browns are. And, I mean, the Browns really haven't been good in a while. But, man, those fans were all up in it all day. It helped that it was a close game, but they were up in it all day. And just so you know, Cleveland is a freaking football town.
Nice.
And they love their Browns. Not saying they don't love their Indians, because they do. And they'll root for their Indians. But they're a football town first and foremost. With that being said, it was funny. I didn't realize it until about midway through the first quarter, but I was sitting next to a Ram fan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was sitting next to a Ram fan. All of a sudden, he comes back from the concession stand. I see this Ram shirt. He says next to me. But when I saw him originally, he had a Browns hat on. I was like, bro. I'm like, you're a Rams and Browns fan? I'm like, I didn't even realize you're a Ram fan until you just walked past. He's like, yeah, I live in L.A. and I work every 3 months I come out to Cleveland for work, and I spend 2 weeks in Cleveland. So I've adopted the Browns as my AFC team. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know. First of all, I thought it might have been LT and whatnot. It was just funny.
Oh yeah.
I was like, hey, is this yeah? But I didn't say anything like that or whatever. But it was funny. So shout out to you, LT, just because I want to give a shout out to you. In that regards, it was a great close game. Man, that crowd was going nuts from the opening kickoff. It was so bad that the Rams, I believe, ended up going to a silent count.
Yeah.
From what it looked like, because Goff could not communicate inside the huddle as much as he tried. But he did a great job of keeping the offense under composure and hit big plays when he needed to. Now, I was waiting for Gurley to break a big run. He didn't do it. I think his longest run may have been like 8 to 10 yards, but the longest run of the whole game was 12 yards by Chubb. And nobody found a lot of running room. But Goff, with his composure, and he played great on the road. Like, Goff isn't really the best road quarterback, in my opinion, but, man, he silenced his critics in this game. Doesn't help that there were some penalties on the defensive side of the ball for the Browns that helped the Rams with their drives to sustain them. Now, the Rams, I believe, were called for 2 false starts, and one of them was at the Browns' 1-yard line. I nudged my friend, and I said, you know, it's not that bad when you get a false start on the 1-yard line because it opens up running room, it opens up more passing lanes from the 5 or 6 yard line. And he's like, yeah, we'll see. Touchdown Cooper Kupp is second of the day. It was a thing of beauty. He was wide open. It was like, see? Like, you wouldn't be able to run that on the 1-yard line. You're just going to ground and pound. So, in my opinion, then, Gurley had a touchdown taken away from that, but the Rams were still able to capitalize on a mistake that actually, I think, benefited them more. As far as the Browns go, I'll tell you this much right now. The Browns had no answer on offense for Aaron Donald, and Aaron Donald showing why in that game, why he was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year last year, and why he was also running for possible MVP last year, even though a defensive player probably isn't going to win it ever again.
Yeah.
But he was a one-man wrecking crew. It was disgusting to see him where he was all over the field. I was actually almost ready to go to the Browns team store and say, can I get an Aaron Donald jersey, please?
Yeah, right, because he looked like he was in their backfield.
Oh, man, he seriously set up shop in the backfield there. He made the Browns really second-guess what they were doing on offense because no matter how much time Baker had to throw, he really didn't have time to throw.
No. Well, and that's what they were saying during the game. One of the things they were saying during the game is when Baker has to hold on to the ball, his numbers are way down, and when he's able to get rid of it quickly, his numbers are way up. Well, that's the Aaron Donald factor.
Exactly. But I'll tell you this. In the late first quarter, early second quarter, the Browns started to go hurry-up offense. And it wasn't anywhere near the 2-minute warning or close to halftime. It was working for the Browns. They were getting the ball out quick, and that's the thing. Like, the same thing with Trubisky. If they hold the ball, if Trubisky and Mayfield hold the ball for less than 2.5 seconds, they're on target, they're on point, they have really good throws. You give Baker time, and he's going to end up making a mistake or throwing the ball away.
Well, and I think that's a product of the O-line. You know, now, here's what I noticed. The Rams defense played outstanding. There's no question about it. And I said in the beginning of this year that the Rams are going to win games like this all year long. That the days, and it's funny that the NFL experts, and I use that term very loosely because I think my 5-year-old's more of an expert than anybody on the NFL network, with the exception of maybe Good Morning Football. But they were all saying, oh, the Rams, I don't understand why they're not scoring as many points. That's because you've never watched a Ram game a day in your friggin' life. And the only time you did watch a Ram game was the Super Bowl. That's it. Because even though you watched the NFC Championship game, when the Rams were on offense, you went and got popcorn, went pee-pee, and did all your things that you did, and then came back to watch Drew Brees because you believe Jared Goff is nothing but a garbage quarterback. Let's call it like we see it. So there's that element to it. Now, the other thing that I noticed is this is the Rams' life. Look, when you run one formation, 6 plays, teams are going to figure you out. So now the Rams are still able, and I think that says a lot about Jared Goff, because I'm going to touch on this. I'm going to say it right now. Listen carefully, everyone that's out there. And while Eric talks about the next game, or as he goes into his prediction for the next game, I'm going to be looking for the individual that wanted me to mention this, because I'm with you, and I'm going to give you props because I agree with you. Okay? The Rams this year are winning games despite their head coach. Okay? They are winning games not because of McVay, but in spite of McVay. He has been horrible this year. Jared Goff throws a laser completion on 3rd and 15 that converts, or 3rd and 10, and converts a first down. But it doesn't count. Why? Because little McVay goes running down the sideline calling a timeout because he didn't like the way it looked.
I noticed that too.
I was so pissed off, and Jared was like, what are you doing? If you can't trust Goff after leading you to a Super Bowl, you're the problem, not him. And how many times does he prove it?
To add to that, I get it. It's college, but this is the pros, man. Let your guys play.
Right. And the bottom line is this isn't the first time Jared Goff got a great play taken off the boards because his head coach called a timeout. And the talking in his ear constantly for 15 seconds until he gets cut off isn't helping Jared Goff either. I think it's hindering him. If you notice, for those of you that go, Jared Goff played horrible, he's a terrible quarterback, I want Case Keenum back in a Ram uniform. I bet you're also calling for Jeff Fisher and Sam Bradford, right? Let me explain something to you. Go back, if you have time, and watch the game. The interception, which, by the way, both interceptions were unbelievable diving interceptions where the defender read it perfectly and made a great play. Tip my hat, great interception. But the first one came out of a timeout. They had a play. They called timeout. They come back to the timeout, and Jared Goff throws a pick. So whatever call Jared Goff had or wanted got killed, and we went with McVay's play. And McVay's play ended up in an interception. You talked about it. You're inside the 5-yard line, and you're running the ball. You're not running the ball. You're throwing it. Smaller windows, smaller avenues. And remember, guys, this isn't the New England Patriots, right? We don't have 1,900 different pass plays. We have 4 out of one formation. Doesn't take much to study it. So the fact that Jared Goff is completing touchdown passes inside the 5-yard line with our limited playbook because McVay is limited in his ability to think outside of one formation, we're in trouble. Now, I'm not saying McVay's a horrible head coach. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying he's a very limited head coach. And at 31 years old, he's got a lot of learning to do. But if I hear one more person tell me that the Rams are good because of Sean McVay, I'm going to throw up in my mouth. The Rams are good because of Jared Goff, because of Todd Gurley, because of a great defense, because of a great kicking game, because of a good front office, and because of a good head coach. And right now, our weakest link in that chain is our offensive line and our head coach. I'm saying it. So don't think I'm off the Sean McVay bandwagon, because I'm not. But I'm telling you, the Rams wouldn't be 3-0 if it wasn't for Jared Goff. If we had any other quarterback in football, we'd be 0-3. Because Aaron Rodgers would be arguing with him every 5 minutes. Phillip Rivers would be injured by now. So take a pick. Who do you want? Mahomes? Mahomes would be limited to one formation, 6 plays. You think Mahomes would flourish under that environment? Oh, McVay would design a different offense if he had Mahomes. Would he? Because I'm seeing the same offense with Kirk Cousins as Jared Goff. And Jared Goff has a lot more weapons in his arsenal of abilities than Kirk Cousins has. And yet, he's still limited to Kirk Cousins' playbook with the Washington Redskins. So, again, the problem right now is McVay needs to take the shackles off. We're suffering from the consequences of not going and getting a better O-line. And you better thank your lucky stars we have Jared Goff at quarterback. Because if it wasn't for JG, we wouldn't be 3-0 right now. Period. The 2 touchdown passes he made, one at the end of the game to give us that lead when the Browns started coming back, unbelievable. Not his best throw of the year, but still a great play. He consistently moved the team. You watch Jared Goff on third down. That's where he makes his money. That's where we move the ball. That's where the big plays come. Oh, he's got Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and Cooks. Okay. Tom Brady had Gronkowski, Edelman, and Amendola. Now he's got Gordon, Amendola, or not Amendola, but Amendola, right? Is he the one that's there? No, Edelman, and a couple other weapons. Let's not pretend like the Patriots have never had weapons. They've always had somebody to throw to. So I'm heated because I'm tired of hearing about Sean McVay and that Jared Goff sucks. I'm done with it. I'm absolutely, see the jersey? I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Sean McVay is a good coach. He looked like he could be a great coach. He's slumped a little bit to a good coach. He's got a lot of work to do. You are not going to win in this league with one formation and 6 plays. You're just not. So you better figure it out. And until he figures it out, thank God for our defense. Thank God for Jared Goff. Thank God for Zuerlein. Because we have weapons, we're able to make these plays work. But eventually, something has to change. And run the damn ball. That seems to be the theme. Like the NFL should change to RBB or RDB. Run RF. No, RT. I can't even. Run the damn ball. Whatever that acronym is. I'm all upset right now. What's the acronym? Run RT. There you go. RTDB. Run the damn ball. That should be the NFL's new moniker. Shouldn't be NFL. It should be RTDB because nobody's doing it. Third and 1. Running back just got 8 yards on 9 yards on 1 carry. Let's throw it now. Incomplete. It's annoying, but it's a coaching epidemic throughout the league. Look, bottom line is the Rams beat they beat week 1. They beat a bad team by 3, right? Week 2, they blew out a great team. Week 3, they beat a bad team or an average team by 6 or 7. Sorry. I'm starting to get the feeling like the Rams are going to be one of those teams that plays down to their opponent and blows out the good teams. Like they're going to be able to get up, and I mean up for the big games. But then they're going to fizzle out against the weak teams, and it's going to be close. The Rams are going to break that this week against Tampa Bay. But anyway, that's my rant. Eric, do you have anything you want to add to this?
I do, yes. The interception that Goff threw on the sideline that was made by a great diving catch by the Browns quarterback. For me, when I was there watching it live, didn't look like he had everything on the ball. Like he kind of just slinged it out there. So credit Cleveland for a great defensive play there. But again, I think if Goff puts a little bit more into it, he gets it to his receiver. That's just what I saw. I also want to let you guys know I did make my way down to the dog pound, and it's just even crazier down there than where I was sitting, which was actually up in the 500 section right on the 50-yard line, which I had great view of the game the whole time. The one thing you really can't tell right away is field goal kicking. So when Zuerlein missed the right, he missed kind of bad, but it didn't hurt them. It just kept the game a lot closer than what it could have been.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. This is going to be a big game coming up because whether it was as close as it could be, and yes, you're right, that throw he didn't put a lot on, but I don't think Goff was very confident in the play that was called. And there's another issue, right? When your quarterback isn't confident in your play calling, I will say this about that interception too. Goff did make one fundamental mistake in the sense that he looked there too early. And again, your playbook's limited, so teams know your route combinations. So when they saw Robert Woods easing up, he knew that it was going to be a comeback, and Goff looked at him too long, giving that DB time to know he could jump that route. So I'm not putting it all on McVay, but Obviously, whatever call they had prior, Goff was a little more confident because he had a pep in his step. And after the timeout, kind of was meandering a little bit out there. Now, I don't know, maybe it was coaching and he had something on his mind. Maybe he was confident in the play. I mean, I'm just speculating at this point. But it is interesting to me because this is like the fifth or sixth time now in the last 3 years that Goff's completed a great pass and it's taken off the board because of a timeout. I'm yet to see Goff throw a pick and was saved by a timeout. It's always the other way around. And it's frustrating. Anyway, what game did you want to cover this week, E?
All right, well, you might be shaking your head at this one. But I'm going Carolina, Houston.
Really?
And I'm going to ask you a question before I get into this game. Do you think the Panthers have found their successor to Cam Newton?
Yes. Well, it appears so. This is his second year, right?
Correct.
So he definitely has a grasp of what they want to do. I think the best thing for him is that they keep their head coach and get rid of Cam Newton and see what this kid does in year 3 under the development. But we know what a quarterback can do with 2 years in a good system. So it certainly appears that way, yes.
Okay. So Carolina, I didn't give Carolina really, I didn't really give them a puncher's chance to go into Arizona and beat them. And boy, was I wrong. Carolina not only went into Arizona, but they left, no doubt. Now, you might have heard of the kid Kyle Allen. He is the backup quarterback to Cam Newton. He used to play at Texas A&M. And he had a decent college career. Comes in, backs up Cam Newton. Well, Cam Newton decides to go on YouTube, of all places, and say, hey, I was hiding a foot injury more than what I was letting on. Guess what, Cam? Maybe you shouldn't tell people on YouTube first. Maybe you should tell your organization first. Because there's no way in heck that you would have been out there on that previous game actually hurting your team's chances to win when you should have probably beaten a Tampa Bay team that they looked better than they should have on defense, and then they got beat by the Giants because they have no defense. So Kyle Allen, caps off to you. This is going to be your second road game in a row starting. I'm actually looking forward to this game because, man, when you get J.J. Watt on one side and Whitney Merciless on the defensive side of the ball for Houston, against arguably one of the top 5 running backs in the league, both running and catching out of the backfield, and Christian McCaffrey, Houston's defense might be in for a world of hurt. If Kyle Allen can keep the ball away from turning the ball over, and Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore both had great games last week, and yes, I know it was against Arizona, and I know they didn't have Patrick Peterson. They have one more week to go without him. But Carolina, they can put up some points and put up points in a hurry. But I also like the fact that Houston's at home in this game, and that Watson to Hopkins connection hasn't been going off too much in the early quarter start of this NFL season, and they got to get the run game going. But I'll tell you this much: when they traded for Duke Johnson, I was like, okay, this guy's going to run with it, and he's going to take the bull by the horns, and he's going to be the lead back. That ain't been the case.
Nope.
Carlos Hyde, from out of nowhere, after he was like the 4th running back in Kansas City, goes into Houston and was like, I'm going to take this job over. And that's basically what he's done.
Yeah.
And Carlos Hyde has been a really good player for the Texans. I don't know how much he'll be able to keep it up. He doesn't have the last few years track record of being the most healthiest running back out there. But if he's able to do a little pass blocking and keep Watson upright and not sacked, he's one of the most sacked QBs in the league, then the Texans have a really good chance, and they're going to keep up their aspirations of getting a division title this year. But Carolina comes in and they have to account for at least 3 guys, 4 if you count Greg Olsen. Houston has to account for those 4 guys on the offensive side of the ball. And when you got Hopkins, and I'll tell you what, going back to Houston's offense, you got Hopkins on one side. They've used Will Fuller when he's healthy, Kiki Cutie when he's healthy. But then when they traded for Laramie Tunsil and Kenny Stills, I really thought Kenny Stills was just throwing that Miami wanted to say, here, take Kenny Stills off our hands. Tunsil's all yours, but take Stills. Stills has come in and been a much bigger weapon on the offensive side of the ball for Houston, taking over for the Kiki Cutie, because we know he can't stay healthy either. But Houston's got a lot of weapons. Carolina's got weapons too, because Kyle Allen adds a whole other element. It's not always, Cam's going to rush here, Cam's going to rush there. Oh, you're inside the 5, Cam's going to sneak it in and try to score a touchdown. No, now he's actually got a lot of weapons that he utilizes, and he doesn't just focus in on one receiver. Man, this is going to be a high-scoring game, and I'm looking forward to it. 34-30 Houston.
See, the thing for me is in this game, I trust the Texans and Watson more than I trust Allen and the Panthers. I got to see it more from Allen. I think Allen looks like he could be a pretty good player, but he did play the Cardinals, right? And outside of Christian McCaffrey, I'm sorry, Carolina has no weapons. They just don't.
Dude, DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel are two really good young receivers. Get to know them, know their names.
I got it. I'm not saying they're bad, okay? And as the season progresses, now that they have a quarterback that can better utilize their talents, they may. But player for player, I trust the Texans more than I trust the Panthers. Now, if these two teams were playing in Week 15, might be a totally different conversation, right? The problem I have with Houston is they can't stop the run. When push comes to shove, they're doing, yes, they stopped Jacksonville. Yes, they stopped New Orleans, but those teams aren't running the ball. You look at, who did they play last week? Why am I spacing on the Texans? Yeah. Who the hell did they play? Oh, the Chargers. The Chargers ran relatively successfully against them, and that's a team that does focus more on balance. McCaffrey's going to get his yardage, and he's going to get his plays. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as you think it is, and I don't think it's going to be as close as you think it is. I could see a 30-20, 30-21 game. I think that the Panthers are good enough to hang around, but ultimately I think until those – now look, if DJ Moore and Samuel show up, this could be a 30-28 game, and it could be a whole different ball game, late at the end if Carolina has the ball and Allen's, driving them up, not driving up the field, but if Allen gets the ball in the last 2 minutes for a chance to tie it or win it, man, that's a scary proposition for that Houston defense. But I just trust Houston a little bit more. I'm going to go 30-21 Texans in a closer game, but I think the Texans will pull away in the fourth quarter because I don't like Carolina's football team right now. I think there's a lot of holes, and I think their defense is suspect. I know everyone talks about their defense, but they made Jameis Winston look like a Hall of Fame quarterback. I can't get on the Carolina bandwagon defensively. I just can't. So, we'll have to wait and see. So before I get into my game, there's a comment I want to make here. Easy Money Sniper was the one that had wanted me to talk about McVay. Now, Easy Money Sniper is a lot harder on McVay than I am, okay? And I was pretty hard on McVay, but everything I don't like about McVay I think is correctable. You tell me what you think of this criticism, Eric. Ready? Okay, so Easy Money Sniper said, well, regardless, I hate Sean McVay. I think he's a pussy. I think he's overrated play caller with a gimmicky offense. He spams play action on 50% of his plays. He hasn't helped Jared Goff develop a true drop back game and is a chronic liar with the whole Todd Gurley situation. Says he's saving Gurley, yet has him running out the clock in the fourth quarter over the Saints blowout game. I can't stand this. I can't stand him, man. And he is a horrible red zone play caller with his gimmicky jet sweeps. Now, that's a pretty harsh criticism. I would argue two things here. One, I do not think that he has not developed Jared Goff into a true drop back quarterback. I think he's actually improved Jared Goff's abilities overall as a drop back passer. So I don't agree with that. I also don't agree with he spams play action on 50% of the offense, right? That's what play action's for. You show a running threat and you play action pass it. Does he go to the play action more than the run? Yes, if the opponent dictates it. The opponent last on Sunday night dictated. The Browns were using replacements at DB in every position. Why wouldn't you attack it downfield with a passing game? So I don't agree with that. The only other thing that I want to say is, I hate to say it, guys. Look, if you don't like red zone jet sweeps and you're going to call it gimmicky easy money, I'm sorry, but that's football in 2019. The days of lining up in the eye and a power, fullback and lead blocker up the gut, those days are over. I'm sorry, but it's true. So I can't blame him for doing what is football today. I would like to see him go more traditional. But look, him being, him using Todd Gurley in a blowout situation when the game was over instead of Malcolm Brown is a head scratcher. He did lie a lot about Todd Gurley throughout the offseason and when we were finding other things out. As far as him being a female genitalia, there are times I do get frustrated with him in the sense that he doesn't trust Goff enough, and he gets scared in big moments, and he gets bailed out by Goff. That's perfect time to stop. So I said except in the Super Bowl. So Eric, what is your take on this comment by Easy Money?
Well, first of all, it is a little harsh. I'm not saying it's all false or it's all true. I'm sure there is some truth in that. Listen, everybody in every professional organization does not like certain things that their head coach or manager does, no matter what sport you're in, okay? So that's nothing new. If you really want McVay to be like a Belichick or something like that, I mean, nobody is Belichick. There's a reason why Belichick does what he does and why he's more successful than the other 31 head coaches in the NFL, probably all combined right now. But having said that, maybe temper your expectations a little bit. There's only one team I can really think of that still does the I formation down in the red zone, a little gimmicky plays here, not always the jet sweep. And if you watch Bears games closely, then they'll run those I and T formations out there. I won't be surprised if they're on the goal line this week against Minnesota at home that they run out a T formation. They've done it last year with Matt Nagy as their head coach. So yes, it's very rare you don't get it. If you run the jet sweep, you're just hoping that your guy can get around the corner, But, McVay has his faults just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And, not to get too far off on a tangent there, but every head coach makes a boneheaded call every now and then. We've seen Belichick do it in a playoff game in Indianapolis, going for it in his own territory on 4th and 6 and coming up a half a yard short, and they're like, I didn't want to punt to Peyton Manning. Well, you just gave him a shorter field, so there you go.
Right.
So it happens. It's always head-scratching. You just hope that they have a good reason when you listen to the post-game conference, okay? And because if they don't, then you just feel so unsatisfied. You're like, hey, you let a whole fan base down because of your stupid play calling.
Yeah. And,
I'm not going to say that his comments were 100% wrong or 100% correct, but there is a little bit to it there that you might open up your eyes to a little bit and be like, maybe he's right on this, but definitely not this because of A, B, and C. And
right.
I think McVay is one of the better head coaches in the league currently right now, and he's perfect for Jared Goff. Now I know you said before that they're winning in spite of McVay, not because of him. When he can tinker with his offense like he has, man, all he's got to do is just get with his defensive coordinator and be like, unleash the beast, and we're going to be in this game where we're going to win it.
Right. So let me just clarify one thing. I don't hate Sean McVay. I love Sean McVay. I think you're right. He's perfect for Jared Goff. And I think last year we won a lot of games because of Sean McVay. But I also think that we won a lot. I think we won a lot of games because of the talent on our team. I love Sean McVay, and I think he has room to grow, and I think he's going to become one of the best coaches in the NFL, maybe ever, right? Not the best ever, but one of the best ever. It's just right now, it's frustrating because he's not learning from mistakes that he's made in the past. I'm starting to see repeat mistakes, and that's what I'm frustrated with. And I get really tired of the media making this guy out to be perfect no matter what he does wrong, and then crap all over the players that are actually on the field making the plays happen that he's calling. So, it's kind of a weird dynamic. I think for Sean McVay to really show me, to prove me right that he's going to be one of the best of all time, he's got to stop talking for the full 15 seconds. He's got to quit calling timeouts and trust his players. And he's got to have some better red zone play calling. Those are the three areas that he's really struggled in. If he can do that and improve in those areas, I don't think the Rams can be stopped. And I don't want another coach. I remember Fisher. I remember McDaniels. I remember Spagnuolo. I remember Ram coaches in the past. I'm happy with McVay. I don't want to lose him. I just think he's got some work to do, to be sure. Now, that being said, I'm going to move to my game. My game, I've been up in the air on. I haven't really decided which one I wanted to cover. But ultimately, I think it comes down to this game for me. I've been debating between New England and Buffalo. I know not enough people are going to give Buffalo credit. I actually have that as my upset pick of the week. But the game I'm fascinated about is Detroit and Kansas City. Are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Detroit and Kansas City, I'm excited about. I think the Lions have a good running game. They can exploit the Chiefs' vulnerability on defense. And they seem to run the ball a little bit more. Patricia would love to prove that he can beat the Chiefs as well. They're home. The Lions play really well in the Dome. I think the Lions are a much improved football team on all phases of the game, including defense. And I think it's a good test for Mahomes. I think this game is going to be one of those back and forths. I like Stafford at home in a close game. I've seen it with my own eyes over and over and over again. And as crazy as it sounds, man, I think Kerryon Johnson rushes for over 100 yards. I think he gets a couple of touchdowns. I'm not just saying that because I'm hoping, Eric, and we know why I'm hoping. But, you know,
4 fumbles.
that would be my luck, right? 4 fumbles and -2 yards rushing. But all kidding aside, I do think that the Chiefs are vulnerable against the run. And I think Stafford allows that vulnerability to stay because of his ability to throw the ball. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a barn burner. And I'm going to say 27. You know what? I'm going to go better. I'm going to say 26-24 Chiefs. Lions. I think the Lions kick a field goal at the end of the game to make it. They're down 23-24 and he gets one more shot. I think it's going to be that kind of game. I'm going to say 26-24 Lions. Mahomes gets one loss, but it's on the road against a team that's going to make the playoffs this year. I really believe that. I think Detroit is really, that division is going to shape up by week 8. And I think the Browns and Lions, or the Bears and Lions, are going to be two teams that people are like, we kind of saw the Bears coming, but then we gave up on them, and now they're back in the fray. Minnesota is going to really be a different team on the road than they are at home. And I think Green Bay is going to start playing better opponents down the road. And that really, it's going to be Green Bay or Detroit that makes that wild card push, depending on how they play against each other. But I'm going to go Lions at home 26-24.
Very interesting. I'll tell you this much. I've been impressed with the Lions. Yeah, they gave up a lead in Arizona, but you know what? Week 1, you never know what you're going to expect because, 95% of the players who don't make the team are playing in the preseason nowadays. And the Lions did cough up a big lead at the end of the tie. They're 2-1. They went into Philadelphia, of all places, on the road, beat the Eagles the week prior. Then the Eagles, on a short week, are like, okay, we got to go to Green Bay. They beat Green Bay on Thursday. So it's like, okay, do we know, is this more about the Lions, or is this more about the Eagles, or is this more about Green Bay? Like, you don't freaking know. It's crazy the way the NFL is. But this is a very fascinating game for me as well. And that's because, A, I'm going to be able to watch it.
Nice.
I'm curious to see how Matt Stafford comes out of this game. Well, he is questionable going into this game with the hip injury, but let's just take him off the injury report. So there's no way he's missing this game. I don't even know who his backup is, but they're not even going to steal the field anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be very little defense played by the Chiefs, so they're going to be like, okay, we just got to outscore the Lions. Now, the Lions' defense is very underrated to me. I mean, they let go of Ezekiel Ansah in the offseason, and he signed, I believe it was Seattle. He only played a game. But they have a bunch of hog mollies up front. There's, what's his name?
Snacks Harrison.
Snacks Harrison, thank you. Like, I knew it was Snacks. I couldn't remember his last name right away. But, yeah, I mean, he's anchoring that defensive line right up the middle. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes to win this game with his arm. And we've seen Mahomes do that. We've seen in 1+ season, because he played Week 17 his rookie year, all of last year, and then, of course, the first 3 games of this year. He can win with his arm, okay? What they're really going to miss in this game is Tyreek Hill. Now, he's still out. He's got another couple of weeks before he comes back. I think the Chiefs can still score a lot of points in this game. Whether, you think a lot of points as 30-something or 40-something, that remains to be seen. With the Lions on the offensive side of the ball, here's where I scratch my head with them. Patricia's becoming a very good coach in the NFL. He's from that Belichick tree that typically doesn't do well. He is becoming an exception because he is doing really well. My problem with the Lions is this. In the first half of all 3 games, they have unleashed Kerryon Johnson. He has scored a touchdown in 2 of the 3 games. And then he disappears in the second half. Now, he disappears to Ty Johnson. He disappeared to C.J. Anderson until they cut him. And when they played last week, I was like, okay, well, Kerryon Johnson got a touchdown. Let's see what he does in the second half. He barely played in the second half. He barely touched the ball in the second half. It's like, Detroit, what are you doing? Well, Detroit's somehow winning. I'm still trying to figure it out. Everybody else is still trying to figure it out. But Stafford is using all of his weapons, and I think that they should use their best players, which Kerryon Johnson is one of them. But he's getting the ball out to Galladay and to Marvin Jones Jr. When he decides to actually play again and actually make more than one catch in a game for the last 2 weeks, T.J. Hockenson to be a real weapon.
Mm-hmm.
They unleashed him in week 1. He's only caught 2 passes since then. Not good. Get your butt open. I know you're a rookie tight end. It's probably one of the most difficult positions to play in the NFL and get your feet wet. But you know what? Suck it up, big boy. Put your pants on and go play. So, with that being said, 5 touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes, 4 touchdowns for Matt Stafford, both throwing the ball. And the Chiefs end up winning this game in a shootout 38-33.
Ooh, good football game. Either way, I think it's going to be a great game. I'm glad I picked this one and I'm glad you agreed with me because sometimes we don't agree on games, but I think this is an obvious one for both of us. I thought the Houston one was interesting just because, I think it's going to be a competitive game, but it's definitely 2 teams ESPN's not going to spend time covering, or the network for that matter. Bears-Vikings. I'm going to take this one, and I'll let you take the Rams game. And put some of your input on it. Here's my feeling. The Vikings struggle outdoors against opponents that are good. Specifically, Kirk Cousins struggles against good opponents. The Vikings traditionally don't, but have under this new regime. I think Zimmer's defense is figured out. I think Cook is a great running back. I think that the Vikings have explosive players on offense, but I agree with you. I think those wide receivers can get locked down with the Bears secondary. Khalil Mack is the X factor here. They're going to have to run the ball to get Khalil Mack away from Kirk Cousins. But the Bears can stop the run now. And I think there's going to be a lot of drives that end in field goal opportunities or fourth and short misses for the Vikings. I could see them putting up 16 points. I can't see them putting up more than 19. The Bears are going to have opportunities due to turnovers, due to mistakes, due to short fields. They're going to have to make some plays on special teams. I don't love this game for the Bears, but I don't hate it either. I look at this and I think it's going to be one of those 27-16, 24-19 or 24-19, 26-16. I'm sorry, 27-16 type of games. I think that the Bears have enough on offense. They're going to move the ball. I think they're going to put the ball in the end zone when they get in the red zone, which is where I think the Vikings are going to struggle. And I think at the end of the day, I think the Bears are going to win. I'll go 27-19. But I won't be surprised if the Vikings don't get 19 points. They end up at 16 or less, which would be funny because he scored 16 on the road against Green Bay after putting up big numbers at home the week before in week 1. And now they go on the road against a division opponent yet again. I think the Bears have enough firepower to keep up with Minnesota, and I think they have enough talent on defense to shut them down, meaning Thielen and Diggs. So I'm going to go Bears here, 27-16. But the X factor in this game, as always, is going to be Khalil Mack's ability to get pressure on the quarterback and that interior Bears defense's ability to stop the run. If those two dynamics are working, it's going to be a long day for Minnesota.
All right. Minnesota won their first game. Green Bay won their first game. Minnesota went to Green Bay in week 2, faced a team that was over 500, and lost the game because Kirk Cousins decided to throw it to the other team and fumble the ball away. Kirk Cousins in week 3 goes home, they win their game. The Bears go on the road to the Redskins, they win the game. The Bears are 2-1. Anybody see where I'm going with this?
Yep.
Kirk Cousins is 4-26 lifetime against teams with a record of 500 or better, which includes 0-1 already this year. However, Taylor Gabriel for the Bears, wide receiver, sustained a concussion against the Washington Redskins, and he is out for the game. So that is one less wide receiver that the Minnesota Vikings will have to worry about. The Vikings also boast a very good run defense, just slightly worse than the Bears. And when I say worse, I mean like 0.4 yards worse than what the Bears let up per game. And the Bears have a great defensive run game, which they're going to be all over Dalvin Cook, who comes into the NFL as, I believe, the leading rusher coming into week 4. He's having a great year, and they're leaning a lot on him. It's one of the reasons why Cousins only threw 10 passes in week 1 against the Falcons. Now, for the Vikings offense, Adam Thielen is still a stud. We all know that. Stephon Diggs only had 6 catches this year in 3 games. 6 catches. Like, they need to get him going for them to actually take their team to the next level. Their tight ends, Rudolph and the guy from not from Iowa. They have another tight end who's really good. His name escapes me for a moment. He's a rookie. They really haven't gotten involved, but it's really been the Dalvin Cook show. And Dalvin Cook is going to have very little space to run in this game. I will be surprised if he has anywhere near 75 yards. The Bears give up about 63 rush yards a game, and the Vikings average over 75 rush yards a game. And that was with Cooks having a down game in week 2, where he didn't get to 100 yards rushing. With that being said, the Bears, minus a wide receiver, have had a really tough time running the ball on the ground with their rookie, David Montgomery, and Tariq Cohen does not belong in the backfield. He needs to be in the slot somewhere and getting defenses to cover him one-on-one, because he can beat any quarterback down the field, which is going to give a lot of open receiving yards to Anthony Miller, who is their typical slot receiver. He'll move to the outside, the number 2. And we all know Xavier Rhodes. He'll be on Allen Robinson, basically shadow covering him. So that doesn't leave a lot for the Bears to move the ball. They're going to need to rely on their defense in this game and in this game alone. With this all being said, Vikings 17, Bears 15, 5 field goals for the Bears.
Ooh.
I don't like this game for Chicago at all.
Wow, you're going super low scoring. Well,
Yep.
Man, okay. Well, Rams and Buccaneers. I'll let you start.
Rams and Bucks. Well, the Rams are at home. There's been as long as the Rams offensive line can contain Shaq Barrett, that's the only guy you have to worry about. I don't care if you put Gurley and Malcolm Brown on the field and one helps with a double team on Shaq Barrett, but at least block him, and the Buccaneers won't have a chance because the Rams defense is going to shut down everything ground and everything air. Jameis Winston will have no time now with Aaron Donald basically wearing him as a hat all day. Rams win this one big, and I mean big, 38-13.
Ooh, we are very close. Look, here's with the way I see this breaking down. I'm not normally somebody that's going to sit here and go Rams blow people out, but this Buccaneer team is bad. And I could see the Buccaneers winning the toss and deferring to the second half because they don't want nothing to do with Aaron Donald to start the game and to put their defense on the field, and hopefully the Bucs can get a short field. It won't work. The Rams will go up the field. They'll kick a field goal. They'll go up 3-0. Winston will throw a pick. The Rams will turn that into a touchdown and make it 10-0. Then the Rams will kick off. He's going to get sacked twice on the drive, maybe fumble the second time. Rams recover. They're going to make it 17-0, and that's the end of the first quarter. I think the second quarter, Winston throws another pick, and the Rams are up 24-0 with 7.5 minutes to play in the first half, and people are going to be like, the Rams are back. Their offense is explosive. Goff's going to look great. The running game's going to be clicking, and I think it's going to be 37-10, 44-10 final. I just don't think Tampa Bay is a real measuring stick, but I will say this. This is what you look for. If the Rams don't blow Tampa Bay out, this is the third bad opponent they played in 4 games, and it's the third bad opponent they would have played down to. Then they go to Seattle, who I also don't think is a good football team, but record-wise, and it's a division game, the Rams, I think, are going to be up for those games. It'll be real interesting to see what happens the next 2 weeks for the Rams moving forward, playing 2 division opponents, one on the road, one at home. And the 49ers very well could be undefeated in that Week 5 matchup in LA. So I'm real curious to see how this breaks down. The Rams have to blow this team out, and I think they will. I think they're just a better team. There's a couple shout-outs I want to give here. Naturally, April is probably one of the most upbeat, amazingly happy people I've ever met. It doesn't matter how the Rams play the next week. She's got them blowing an opponent out. And I love the enthusiasm. And, she commented in the Browns game, always love the breakdown. Fellas, Rams win 40-17 tonight. Rams make a huge statement on Sunday Night Football. I think the Rams did make a huge statement on Sunday Night Football. I just, unfortunately, look, I'll give April credit, man. She called it. Only 3 scores for the Browns. So 2 field goals and a tutty, I believe, is what they ended up with. She called 2 touchdowns and a field goal. So good on her. Rams won 20-13, but I love her because she's always so optimistic. AMS is finally starting to see what I'm talking about. He talked about the first 2 years of McVay being over, and he agrees that the Rams are going to be winning. This is our life. We're going to win games 20-13, 27-17. It's going to be defense, special teams, until our offense expands more in the playbook. It's going to be that way. You guys all know Cliff. Cliff is amazing. I love Cliff. He talked about Sean Payton a little bit, Eric, being a revenge game. And he talked about how, Sean McVay, I'm going to talk about that during the Thursday night show, to be sure. And then Gloria rarely comments, but she cracked up on my statement about, Antonio Brown and the Patriots owner can move to the mountains because they're both equally ick. She said she got a chuckle out of that. Sometimes my rants are a little too much, but Eric, I already talked about easy money. You already talked about James and LT. But we got a couple other people. I was asked how I would grade Corey Littleton, and I did that in the last one, and that came from Meanie Grinch. So I love the fact that our fans are so interactive, and I just want you guys to know I love it. I'm hoping to do a live stream here once the football season wraps up and I have a chance to breathe and I'm not doing two jobs at once. But me and Eric are going to do a show either Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday because the Rams play on Thursday night, and we got to get the coverage of this game in. And all we're going to do for that Thursday night game, Eric, so we can kind of plan this, we'll do two separate shows. We're going to cover the Thursday night game, and then we'll cover our other games, including the Bears. But I want to thank you guys because I love the fact that you guys are so interactive and you're so involved. And
Isn't it nice
it's
when you
awesome. So thank you. Eric, is there anything you want to add before we go?
Yeah, I just want MM Forever to stop jumping up and down in his shorts because Melvin Gordon is back. I know he's probably all like, yeah, Melvin Gordon's back, and now we're going to the Super Bowl. Sorry, bro, not happening. He might play it against Miami, but, you know, everybody does well against Miami, so don't feel bad that the Chargers do really well against Miami because everybody else has too, so they're just taking their number and they're in line too. But I know he's asked this many times before, and I might as well finally give him an answer. Yes, the Chargers did the great thing, letting Breeze go and drafting Philip Rivers there. I finally said it for you. I know it's probably been on your mind for I don't know how long now. But yes, things don't happen in the NFL if that doesn't happen, especially with the I think the Saints will actually end up leaving New Orleans if Drew Brees isn't there. Because he helped to revitalize the city, and the Chargers did the right thing. So there's your answer finally. I haven't been thinking about it that long, just actually while Anthony was yammering on. But I think it's good to see Melvin Gordon back. He didn't get any extra money, but he did say that the Chargers cut the fines in half, which makes it a little easier for him to come back and whatnot. But, you know, he's back, no new contract. Everybody knew he wasn't going to get a new contract. Everybody knew he wasn't going to get traded. Yeah, and I like what you said about the Rams playing on Thursday night. Sorry, guys, I know we've been doing this on Saturday, and we also lose like a lot of stuff, especially doing this a week later. But I did talk with Anthony before we did the show, and I was like, you know, we need to try to do a show earlier, even if it's like quick recap of our two teams or just the Rams or something. Because I really wanted to talk about the Rams-Browns game since I was there. But, you know, schedules are what they are. So, you know, this is the way we had to do it for a few weeks.
And we could still cover some of that stuff that you saw at the Ram-Brown game because you went to a historic stadium. MM Forever, I am going to say this. Just because I say Philip Rivers is overrated, I don't mean Philip Rivers is a bad quarterback. I don't mean Philip Rivers isn't going to be a future Hall of Famer because I don't believe that your Hall of Fame credentials must be you won X amount of Super Bowls and you have these big, wonderful game moments. I mean, if that's the case, Dan Marino's never in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, Dan Marino's never in the Hall of Fame. He played well that run to the Super Bowl, but other than that, his playoff runs, I mean, Dan Marino's a great quarterback. Circumstances matter, right? I just think it's a little over the top the way they cover Philip Rivers in comparison to other players. And I do mean what I said. I like Jared Goff more than I like Philip Rivers, but I'm not a drop back and throw 75 time a game kind of guy. Jared Goff fits what I like to see and what I enjoy watching perfectly. And again, people get all butthurt when you talk about somebody being overrated. Today, that's not hard to do. These media people only focus on three things, and fantasy is a big part of that. As far as the Chargers go, guys, I don't think they're going to be in LA much longer. Their lease runs out in 2028, and the NFL's already come down on them saying, look, if you can't meet these PLC quotas at 150 because they lowered it yet again. I mean, the Rams have already met all their quotas. They're already well on their way. But once again, the Chargers are having a hard time selling tickets. This is a problem, and this was what I talked about. So once the Raiders go and the Chargers realize, okay, we are getting no one to show up to our games. We're a second-rate city. We're the New York Mets. We got to get the hell out of here because that's what they are. They're going to be the New York Mets in LA. And especially when Phillip Rivers calls it a career, it's going to be really tough to see what they're going to do. And please miss me with your Tyrod Taylor nonsense. That guy is a garbage quarterback. And if that's what you're hanging your hat on in San Diego or LA or Oakland, wherever they end up, God bless your heart. I feel bad for your fan base because that's, I've been there. I feel your pain. Anyway, that's what I want to say about the Charger situation. Anything on your end, or are we done?
We're done.
I'm Anthony.
I'm Eric.
Horns up.
Bear down.
Go Rams!
And go Bears. Oh, by the way, the Bears are wearing their 1936 uniforms. And there was a great article from on Sports Illustrated from a guy on Twitter. His name is Paul Lucas. It's under the hashtag UniWatch. I think you guys should totally read it because it talks about segregation and how the Bears should have played or signed or went out and got more black players for their team. And they talk about the uniform and how those players couldn't wear that particular type of uniform. Very interesting read. I think you guys should take a quick look at history with that one.
Absolutely. See you guys later.